This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in, Royden Ogletree alongside, and always good to see Royden. He's
You sound so enthused to say that.
No, look, two of our regular co-hosts are former interns of mine, you and Steven Simcox.
Look at that.
Our producer, Garrett, another former intern. So I always like, hanging out, chopping it up with people that I mentored.
This is a Big Brother program for
It
you.
is. I'm the Obi-Wan Kenobi to this whole thing.
Okay. Meaning that we're going to kill a bunch of kids or something? Like, what is the...
No, like he had a good run before Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
He had a nice run before that.
Yeah, I'm not like updated
Or maybe
on
listen,
the lore.
I'm the Yoda. I'll say Yoda.
I don't know. I think if you raise 1,000 good kids, it's all negated by the guy that
killed
commits a genocide.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But what about all those other guys? It was,
Yeah.
Well, you still raise Space Hitler. So
What about all the stuff we did before
yeah,
Palpatine got in his dome?
yeah. I think it's all out the window at that point. You gotta go to a different planetary system and call yourself Ben. I guess people will forgive you eventually.
Yeah, I guess so. That's why he had to die, I guess. He just gave up in the middle of the fight. So
History will be kind to me if I just quit. Yep.
That's true. That's true. All right. So the Final Four is set, Royden, and we've been set for a couple days.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this. I sound like
what?
I sound like Jay Leno right there. Like, have you seen this or about this? The Final Four set. Have you seen this?
Have you seen this, guys?
Have you seen this? This has been in the news.
It's crazy.
But
UConn 50 points. God, it's crazy.
But UConn and Bama and NC State and Purdue, and I really as far as matchups go, I think we've gotten some pretty interesting ones, and the fact that we could get potential UConn versus Purdue 1-1 seed in the finals. Good. We could get an 11 and a 4 seed in the final, which would be great too. Whatever. I don't care. It's fine. Getting to see a team try and repeat is always, to me, very interesting because
hasn't been done since Florida, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would like that little factoid to be pushed to the second row.
Would this be a lot of those players' second championship too? Did they come back or did they kind of come up through the system? I'm unfamiliar necessarily with the roster.
I mean, they lost some guys, obviously, but
a couple of lottery picks that are still, but they're juniors and seniors.
Yeah, so they're going to be fine. But it's there's going to be a second one, and the Final Four in the women is set too. And I thought both those games last night were
Did somebody have a good performance? I don't know.
Great showcases of where the women's game has gone.
Yeah.
And Royden, what year were you at Baylor? What years were you at Baylor?
I was at Baylor from 2012 to 2015.
Okay, so you were there during Brittany Griner.
I think they won their championship when I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, so the year before, but you were but she was still there after that year.
Right. I remember vividly waking up early for a religion class at 8 a.m., driving down the road, and she was going the same speed as me on a longboard, all 6'8", just going down the highway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, when you have, when you're that tall.
Look at it.
Yeah. So anyway, I think Brittany Griner and the stars of women's basketball then, Breanna Stewart came after her and some of the other stars. The first wave was the Lisa Leslies and Cheryl Swoops and that of the world. It's okay, well, there's a WNBA. No one's cared about it for a very long time. As much as
there was a lull.
Yeah, a lull. Yeah. So
it was the 90s. I feel like it was sort of big. I remember the Comets won 4 straight championships, and it was a big deal. It's a big deal for civic pride in any city.
Well, when it was new, and then they kind of went into forgotten mode for a while.
Yeah, well, they had to cut teams and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So then Brittany Griner comes along, and she's something that we've never seen in women's basketball. And I said it on the show briefly yesterday, Garrett, but when I was in Bowling Green, Ohio, and there were girls lined up out the door out the door to watch the open practice. I was like, oh, this is good news for women's basketball.
Yeah.
This is good news because I don't know if there was a time previously that you would have seen that in sports, right? You in that sport, you would have seen maybe occasionally, but I mean to get the chance to see Brittany Griner. And the thing is, Bowling Green is a very small gym. Like they should have never hosted, and like even a women's tournament that doesn't, like it was. I remember being there and talking to Coach Mulkey and been like, come on, what's going on here? Like, this is insane. Gym is too small for an NCAA tournament game. But Bowling Green's AD was on the selection committee. So,
funny how that works.
Yeah, and so they got they had all that. Anyway, but those girls now would be the ages of, like, the seniors, like this next wave, the Caitlin Clark generation, the Angel Reese generation, Paige Buckers and all that stuff. Like they're all like that's their age.
Yeah.
So Brittany Griner started the wave. So like when you think about this is the way basketball really kind of worked on the men's side too, is that you had like the glory days of Bill Russell and Wilt and all that, and then Kareem Magic Bird into Jordan has built the NBA into what it was now.
Right.
So I think if you track like women's basketball to where it is now, they're in that probably not to the Jordan phase yet, but maybe like right knocking on the door of
Well, I
where
mean,
their big stars are about to start popping because they grew up playing basketball and they didn't stop playing basketball.
No, I mean in the NBA, even in the 80s, as much as people love to say like that was the era that they grew up as the greatest basketball that led into the 90s that begat then the greatest basketball. They were still tape delaying games in the 80s. Even with Magic and Bird, they were tape delaying the NBA Finals.
Yeah, look, and there's a steal by Bird. That was tape delayed.
Yeah.
That game was not on live. So
we're getting to the point. The numbers, I haven't seen them today, but there's something, probably like 3 million people watched the game last night. And that's huge for college, for women's professional basketball. I don't know how much it's translated to the WNBA yet, but there's going to be some tangential eventually, that it should.
Caitlin Clark is a huge celebrity and star. And so having her star power in the WNBA next year is going to help them
I do
regardless.
Agree that it's sort of the Magic and Bird era where you had these 4-year college, I believe Magic stayed maybe 3 years, but you had these 4-year college champions, Angel Reese, all these huge stars, Paige Beckers, that are going to go, and Juju Watkins, who I mean is spectacular in her own right, but that are going to go then carry that talent to a product that needs even more star power. I'm not saying that there aren't stars currently in the WNBA, but
this is the only thing. By the way, Scott of Greywater Watch says, "Can any girl dunk?" Yes, Brittany Griner can.
Yeah, there's a few people in the WNBA.
But there's a few. But Brittany Griner can go. I've seen her in person. Whole arm in, like she's got legit hops. So I mean,
by the way, it doesn't matter, man.
But now like the 3-pointer
folks in the NBA that can't dunk.
Look, Caitlin Clark can't even get close, but she can hit threes from anywhere on the court, and 3 points are more than 2 points, and dunks are all worth 2.
Yeah.
So, and look, this is the most you're ever going to hear me talking about women's basketball ever. I'm sure Garrett,
you're pretty excited.
No, look, I just think it's
fun, man.
Here's the deal.
It's fun
I've had to cover, and I will tell you this. I've had to cover in my life more crappy basketball games than you guys can understand.
Right.
And this is not me knocking Mulkey. The thing is that the only time those games were good is when they played another good team, and there weren't other good teams.
Yeah, like 2. There was no parity.
There was no parity. There's parity
UConn.
now, so it's interesting now. My problem, and I have to say this again and again and again, was not with women playing basketball. It's great. It's sometimes like a lot of times it can be fun. Last night's game was super fun to watch.
It was awesome.
The problem is that when you would turn on the NCAA tournament or be forced to go to one of these things, in Bowling Green, I watched Baylor beat UC Santa Cruz or Santa Barbara or UC whatever the F, I don't know who they were, 100-40.
Yeah.
That's not a good game to be at.
The parity has been comical in women's college basketball.
Jerry Hill was on the flight with me because we had to fly from Albuquerque to Bowling Green because the men were in Albuquerque.
Right.
We landed on Sunday that we got to the game at the under 8 media timeout, and this was when they were still doing halves, okay? So they're still doing halves in women's basketball. Landed at the under 8 media timeout. I sat down. Rebecca Lobo was sitting next to me. And I mean, I don't know Rebecca Lobo, but the only thing I could say was like, oh, hey, Rebecca Lobo, cool. And then I said, oh, did I miss anything? And it was just bad. Then the next game, they played Florida, a team who was really, really good that year, and destroyed them as well.
Yeah.
So it was just the point that there was no parity, and so it was like, it was so
well,
far
that's
off.
why
and now there is, and you have there's more elite coaches, there's more, it's just better now. It's getting better. The fact that we have, look, in the year that Brittany Griner won, there were like 3 stars of women's college basketball. Now there's at least 10 to 15.
Well, how many of them were probably on Baylor's roster?
Yeah.
I mean, Odyssey Sims in her own right became a star.
Odyssey Sims, like, that was back when Notre Dame.
Oh my God,
Smokey's gonna kill me.
Skylar Diggins.
Yeah, Skylar Diggins was there. UConn always had someone, right? But when you were talking about women's, like, who are the good women's basketball coaches, it was Gino and Kim and Pat Summitt and Kay Yao and Tara Vandiver and Muffet McGraw. That was it. Like, not that there weren't other good basketball coaches, but nobody knew about them. And now we're starting.
Because it was UConn dominating forever. They begat Pat Summitt, but like it was 3 coaches winning championships.
Yeah, that's
Mulkey
bad.
barely was able to break through in some of those.
That's bad, right? That's bad. So anyway,
I will say this, but that's what makes the A&M run against Baylor that year so shocking.
Yeah, again, so like all these things happen. So yes, this is me saying I'm happy that women's basketball is getting a lot better. That was a really fun game to watch last night. More and more games will be like that, and it's because of generational talents that come up and people are noticing now. You know, and Caitlin Clark, in my opinion, is the best thing to happen in women's sports in 20 years. I mean, because again, it's got people watching, and the biggest thing. She's got women watching.
Right.
Women watching. See, the one part of this is where I go off the feminist track. I'm very much on the Bill.
Right, caution.
I'm on the Bill Burr bandwagon here when the discourse around, like, how dare you not watch women's sports kind of comes to men because we watch more sports than women statistically. But you could also watch it.
Sports.
I mean, you could also go and buy the tickets. Empty seats are non-binary, man. They're there.
They do not have a gender.
They can be whatever they want to be. Whatever you choose to make them, that's what a chair is. There's no man chair and there's no woman chair. There's just chair.
Yeah.
So it can be whatever it wants to be. So
I'll say this. I mean, I would say that and we can't discount how much like the women's soccer World Cups counted for women's sports too, though, on top of all of that, into putting a spotlight on the women's athletics. I still count that run that they made in the World Cup a few years ago as a huge moment for women's athletics. The subsequent stuff following that has been very interesting, and the discourse around that has been nasty. But I will say that the actual run-up and how many people were watching those games was, I think, a watershed moment for women's athletics. I will say this. It is interesting to see how many people are now turning to basketball as their primary source of athletics. How many women will then choose to make that instead of soccer, for instance, or instead of, like, will the prime athletes now start going over to women's basketball? I don't know, maybe, but you kind of saw it with people stopped playing baseball, went to football. People stopped playing football. Now everybody wants to play basketball in men's athletics. So I'm interested to see how that changes.
Yeah, part of it, like scholarships, like when baseball gives, 11.3 or 13.1 scholarships and basketball gives full ones, what sport are you going to keep playing? you know? And that's a huge thing. I think that's about to change too in NCAA. I think that's going to come down in the next couple of years once they get the financing right and all the other things, where if you decide to fully fund a sport, as long as you're Title IX compliant, you can fully fund a sport, because it's kind of silly that like
softball gets 10 scholarships, baseball gets 10 or 13.1.
Yeah, like so you're matching like, okay, well, you're just eliminating opportunity at that point. You know, you're not creating any opportunity. But on the men's Final Four, Alan says that I'm on the UConn bandwagon. I just think they're the best team that's in it.
I mean, you can watch that. They boat race that team.
Bandwagon is not really. I'm not a bandwagon guy.
Except for Kansas.
What?
Except Kansas.
Kansas, listen, I've been held at gunpoint on that one. I've had to get on board. Like, listen, you both understand marital bliss, right?
Yes.
And the most important thing,
boy, do
happy wife, happy life. I thought when we first got together that it's something I could tease her about. Oh, was I wrong? Oh, was I wrong about that? It was not that at all. I remember one time, she was like, we were first started dating and we were texting, and she sent me like all these like basketball trivia questions to see if I knew them. And so I was nailing it. And then she threw one out there, and she's like, who's the greatest the college basketball program of all time? And I went, oh, Duke. Just knowing that she didn't talk to me for like a day. She did not find it funny at all. She didn't think it was funny. And I was like, oh, now I know how passionate she is. But she also didn't understand at that point, like, listen, I graduated from an ACC school.
Yeah.
I don't like Duke basketball.
Right.
I don't, like, if Duke plays the Russians, okay, I'll pull for Duke. But even still, during that game, I'm like, is Putin that bad? I mean, so.
Makes really good points here.
Yeah, you know, like that's how I felt about Duke. But yes, no, that's merit. Yes, I admit I had to jump on that bandwagon.
I will say
I had to jump on that bandwagon.
I will say this. Luckily, my wife doesn't. She follows sports a lot because I'm obsessed with them. But she's a Rangers fan. I'm an Astros fan, and she's a Rangers fan in the way that, yay, they won the World Series. That's cool. Two thumbs up. Yay. Yeah. And but she loves it.
But she's not going to taunt you after the.
No, she loves to get my goat to be like, oh, the Astros started 0-4.
Yeah.
Tough. They suck.
Hadn't won a home game since last season. Yeah.
How's that feel, loser? And I have to be like, I can't go back at you like I would my buddy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It'd be like, you know what? This is why your mom doesn't love you.
Here's what Florida State and Kansas will likely never play in football. I mean, playoff, they're probably never going to play. They don't ever play in basketball. But if they ever do play in basketball, here's where I'm off the bandwagon. Because I'm not, like, I've told her, listen, I will be respectful and nice, but I'm not going to be in the same room, building, maybe even zip code as you when that happens. Because, look, I've been able as a sport, we've talked about this a lot, as a sports fan to experience almost every, like, kind of championship you can have. Yeah. My baseball team's won the World Series. I'm a Spurs fan. I'm a Florida State fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. In my lifetime, I'm a Red Sox fan. Like, I've experienced lots of bliss.
Been pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it's been great. I have nothing to complain about. So the things that my goals are set on is, what have I not experienced, right? So Florida State won soccer. They've won softball. They've won track. Like, all these things they've done that I can, even though I don't care as much, it's cool to have and be like, hey, awesome. You know, they've won softball twice now, right? So won softball twice. They've won soccer a couple times. You know, like, they're good. They're really good. So those things. My other passion when I was in school was the baseball team. Mm-hmm. I love the baseball team. They've been to the World Series more times than anyone without winning. And so
that blows.
If they won the College World Series, I would, honestly, I'll just use a crass term here, I would shit gold. Like, I would just be so happy.
I've done it.
I would just, like,
I would turn into mist. You just descend into a star.
I know. It would just be unbelievable. And and secondarily, because I've only gotten to see, like, kind of good basketball where they get to a Sweet 16, or in 2020 when the season was canceled, they won the ACC, and I was like, ooh, hey, wow, but they still wouldn't have beaten Kansas or Baylor that year, or Gonzaga for that matter. Those three teams would have all beaten them. Had they gotten to the Final Four, doesn't matter, they would have lost to one of those three teams. Yeah. Bottom line, don't know, like, I always tend to think Kansas would have won in 2020. or Baylor, but we'll see. But mostly Kansas. So, but if Kansas and Florida State ever play in basketball, and especially if there's stakes to it, like in the NCAA tournament, I don't care how happy she is that day. I just don't, because I do want it very badly, and because we've had the same coach literally since my junior year in college.
He's been there that long?
Yes. I remember I watched him move into his office because our office at Intramurals was right across the way. Oh, look, there's the guy that Michael Jordan got fired. Huh, neat. He knows Michael Jordan, and he's here now. That's what I thought at 21 years old. I'm going to be 44 in 2.5 weeks. He's still there.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's wild. You can't do any better? You don't think you can do?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. If I was the athletic director, I'd have been, thank you for everything you've done. We've had some good runs, but you're also 106 years old. Maybe let's turn it over to a horse that can run.
I'll say this. I haven't experienced all the, I do want to experience, Super Bowls and things as a fan, but I will say, if I can't have that, I'm going to be a hater.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, that's where my loyalties will lie. I'm just going to be a big hater on you and your programs and your downfall. Like, if we're rooting for this in the same interest, like, oh man, Texas lost. That stinks, brother. Oh, couldn't be me though. Except for I lost like 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that goes with any sport. Oh man, the Cowboys can't sign a running back. Tough. Like that's just what I'm going to be.
Yeah. There's also
because I know I'm probably not going to see a Super Bowl. I'm probably not going to see an NBA championship. I'll die before those things happen. But I can be a hater until my deathbed.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, so I can't even imagine Florida State getting past the Sweet 16. I can't imagine it. I just can't do it. But if it never did happen, and if Kansas is in the way, then so be it. I have to dance with the one who brung me, and I will deal with the inevitable couples counseling that comes after it.
Tell Cersei I wanted to know it was me.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I know that here's the other thing I know. If Florida State ever beat Kansas in basketball, maybe they would play each other in one of those preseason tournaments, like in the Bahamas or something. I'm going to have to pay to take a vacation with my wife to where they were in the Bahamas.
That serious?
Oh, yeah. Oof. Oh, for sure. I know that the only way to make up because I know I'll be able to control myself mostly, but there will be the one part where I'm like,
Oh, babe, I'm sorry. That was so tough. That was such a tough loss.
Yeah. I would just throw out the name of the player, listen, had so-and-so not had 70%, from beyond three, if you could have defended him at all, but you couldn't.
Yeah.
So, but, and here's
things happen differently.
Yeah.
If things were different, they'd be different,
yeah,
but they weren't.
I would say it that way, and she would see through it. But again, so if they want, I've been to Maui, if they beat Kansas in the Maui Invitational, guess what? We're going back to Maui. Yeah. It's the only way, unless she's no, this was the scene of the crime. I don't want to be here. But
give me away.
I think it'd be that. So,
meanwhile, do you think DJ Burns can stop Zach Edey?
I think it's going to be very interesting. I think I think he's going to give Zach Edey more problems than anybody has.
Just
now,
in the way.
Yeah.
In the way guy.
I guess if you want to say I'm on the UConn bandwagon at all, I do want to see big man versus big man in the finals.
Yeah.
So and look, Alabama's got a big guy too, but it's not Klingon, it's not DJ Burns, and it's not Edey. So I do want to see that kind of old school.
Bringing big man basketball back, baby.
Bring it back and
park your ass in the lane, and we're just gonna feed you the rock.
And here's the thing that Zach Edey does that most people who don't play, DJ Burns has played, Filipowski can. But he really played kind of crappy the other night. He was very frustrated because DJ Burns was doing what he was doing. He was
in the way.
Foul trouble was in the way. The other thing I think that worked out for NC State was playing Duke was the best option for them because Duke had in their mind who they thought NC State was. Who they were, not who they are.
Yeah.
So Duke probably didn't go in as much, and I'm sure John Shire was like, come on. Because now you have this team's hot, and you can tell your team all the time, hey, look, they can do no wrong right now. You got to DJ Burns is playing a lot better than we last saw him.
Throw it in the ocean, yeah.
All these things, they're just everything's going right. And you're like, yeah, coach, yeah. We know who NC State is. We're familiar, we know. Yeah, okay. And then that was the best scenario for them. I don't think Purdue will make that mistake because they've made that mistake way worse a year ago.
Right.
But Zach Edey is the best passer that you could be at 7 feet 4 inches tall. I mean, if they feed the ball into him and everybody collapses in, then he just fires the ball out. And he's very it's the difference between him and Hunter Dickinson to me. Like Hunter Dickinson at Kansas, part of Hunter Dickinson's problem is he's not that great of a passer. Like I watched him many times this year. The same thing happens. Like, Hunter Dickinson, the whole team crashes
He's
down
trying
on
to
him.
spin out of the double team and shoot a jump
or
shot.
he takes a okay, good, I'm going to hit McCullough on the outside. Well, McCullough's not 8 feet tall. You have to throw the ball to him and not out of bounds. So Edey, I've watched him throughout the tournament, especially when those teams all collapse down on him, he hits somebody on the outside, and then you're just screwed because the pass was perfect. He is very, very good at the little things, and I don't think he gets.
And it's a far cry from where he was when he started, obviously. But now he might as well be a ballerina for how big he is out there in the lane. And he does park himself in the lane a little bit. Gets that 1 foot out rule in college basketball to not get the 3-second violation. But it is interesting to have watched his progression.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think anybody's ever been on a heater as much as DJ Burns has been on a heater. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible to watch. He was making turnaround hook one-armed hook shots or one-arm push shots from the block. And it's just all right, man.
Yeah. No, and look,
he's like the Haley Van Leith meme last night.
I couldn't believe she did that in the game. I couldn't believe she did it in the game.
You see it with your own eyes. It's just,
yeah. The other thing, I'll make a quick comment on that game real quick, and we'll go to UConn. This is where Kim Mulkey messes up. She always loses when the other team is bombing threes, and the best person at bombing threes in the history of women's college basketball was out there. And now she beat her last year, so I think she tried to apply that same game plan. But Caitlin Clark was just drunk last night and not worried about anything. Unconscious.
Give me my keys. We're going on a drive.
She should have put Flau'jae Johnson on her a whole lot earlier. Just, if anything, just to switch it up because it was not working.
Well, the calling card of Kim Mulkey teams over the years and the ones that have won championships is they're just so much bigger than you, and they were. I mean, they had a couple of big girls on Iowa that did a decent job, but I mean, that they held Angel Reese to 1 of 12 shooting in the second half or something like that. But where they have won is that they've just physically dominated you. The great equalizer in all of that is when somebody's shooting 9 of 16 from outside
and scores 41.
And scores 41 points.
Yeah.
That's the great equalizer. She had to be amazing last night, and she was. Otherwise, I do think LSU kind of runs away with how just dominantly big they are.
Kim Mulkey would be undefeated in her career. This is how good of a coach she is. And I'm not kidding. Undefeated almost in her career. Outside of the games where you play a UConn team that's just way better, like those teams.
Had more 5-star prospects.
Yeah, but she is an excellent X&O coach, except when it comes to the fact that she has a blind spot. And it's fine because most teams can't do that. So you go through and you don't really have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. But 90% of the games that she's lost, and the other 10% are to UConn's and Notre Dame's and teams that were just better player for player than her team.
Yeah, the anomalies you're saying.
The anomalies. Those are anomalies. But 90% of the losses, especially 100% of the losses to teams that are not as good as them, 100% of those losses are because they are making their threes because she doesn't defend past a certain point on the three-point line, and they're getting the foul calls. If you can hit long threes and a bunch of free throws, you will beat them and get the foul calls you want.
Which is shocking because if I remember correctly, that's how she won her first national championship.
Well, look, I'll take you back to the game they lost in 2012 after they won with Brittany the first time.
Yeah.
The only time they won with Brittany, when they went 40-0. The reason they lost to Louisville was just that. Louisville was going to hack Brittany Griner and hope that they didn't get calls, which they didn't. And then they were going to bomb threes, and that's what they did. And still, Odyssey Sims almost brought them all the way back, but it was just too much. So, anyway. All right, when we come back.
Real quick, UConn's going to win against Alabama by 30 points. So anyway,
I think Nate Oates can score for a little bit with them. I just don't think that they have the.
That was unbelievable, that run that they went on.
And they've just blown out everybody in the tournament.
Yeah.
They've just blown them all out. When we come back, the ACC, FSU, Clemson lawsuits that are going on. Who do we think is going to be the next to join that? Who's the next one over the wall, and what's going to happen there? This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
During the break, Roy and I were giving each other movie and TV recs.
Yeah.
And
That's what I'm good at.
it made me realize that if I could be like in real life, if like, you know, you could, if the movies were real, like what movie would you want to like be in or like that be your life? Like, even though I know they're stealing, Ocean's 11 would be like the one, because it seems fun.
They get away
and
with
everything works out. Like, you know, they do, like, I wouldn't want the prison part of it, which is, you know, he gets out of prison, he's in prison twice in Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
But again, it works out in the long run. They get to go to Italy and Vegas and cool stuff like that. So
the latter two movies in that franchise are just them screwing around in European locations because they got more money than the first one.
Well, I mean, look, I think they're all good. All three of them are good to various degrees, you know.
Yeah.
But I was telling you to watch The Gentleman on Netflix. But also, if I could be in like a British crime drama and be the guy who makes it, like a Guy Ritchie thing.
McConaughey in the movie is living the best life possible.
Yeah.
Except for, I mean, he gets shot at a couple times. But I mean, who doesn't get shot at? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I you know.
That'd be a good life.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. It would be fun. That's the fun kind of crime. No. The kind, you know.
Let me tell you about white-collar crime real quick. Anyway.
Yeah, white-collar crime seems to me to be so much work.
Right.
So much work. You know, you've got to do all the, like, paperwork and, like, do all these things, as opposed to good old-fashioned Guy Ritchie street-level crime.
Right.
Where you just muscle it up.
Yeah, you just, you know, you beat up some blokes, if you will.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't have more on this bit.
Yeah, no. Hey, Chappie, you know, you say stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Smoke a little weed, which is apparently really hard to get in Britain, apparently, via that show.
Yeah.
And then you just go about your day.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Have a Cockney accent.
I had no idea at all. All right, when we left for the break there, I mentioned who's the next through the breach when it comes to the ACC and Florida State and Clemson's lawsuits, which now does include ESPN because they really don't want a lot of this stuff coming out, which it probably will because of Florida Sunshine Law, which leads me to believe that they can stop it in North Carolina, but they can't stop it in Florida. So because Florida has the Sunshine Law that says you have to, like, you can't hide these things. These are
all public record?
Yeah, all public record. Or not public record, but like you can't, there's not a reason why you can't
seal it.
You can't seal these things that are not like.
You'd probably have to do a freedom of information request on all of it to see it.
Well, again, like that right now, that's the whole deal. It's like that's Florida's law.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, that's how it works. I don't think in this instance it's working how they wanted it to, but yeah. So that's why I think this will all get settled. Especially it'll get settled faster, and this is probably what Florida State and Clemson are hoping for. And I also think that this was not like this was not them like planning this separately and just seeing what happened. I think this was a little bit coordinated.
You don't say?
Yeah, but I would not be surprised if another big boy like North Carolina and North Carolina State gets in this, and then all of a sudden this thing really accelerates to let's get this settled, and who's going to be out is going to be out, and let's see if we can have a conference moving forward so we don't go the way of the Pac-12, and we'll see if we can get ESPN to opt into this deal as opposed to opting out of it, which they probably will anyway because it's got less teams. They can take that money and spend it somewhere else.
Less big name teams too. On top of that, the obvious answer to me always felt like Miami would be in there just because of name brand value. I just see a world where hey, don't forget about remember the '90s. That makes the most. Those two make the most sense to me. I mean, maybe Louisville, but they seem fine with their station. Also, I don't know. What do you have? Any other fringe names?
I don't have any insight. I think North Carolina State, like any of those, that Magnificent Seven that all got together and said we would like more money last year, like that's the order I would go in.
Yeah.
Like who are they? And everybody had their different strategy to it. Florida State was going to be loud. Clemson was going to wait until they said like, look, we're getting less money. We've been in this thing more times. And it's weird how these things have to get sold to their various constituencies, because overall you would just think that it doesn't really matter who's making more money than you. You can just say like all these schools are making more money than us. Oregon's making more money than us, and Nebraska's making more money than us. But to really hit it home, you have to say, well, Florida's making more money than us. Our arch rival is.
Yeah.
But really, that's not the issue at hand, is it, Garrett, right? Because you can accept that Florida's worth what Florida's worth because you know what Florida's worth. You're upset that you're not worth as much as them because, again, the last 40 years you've been on very equal footing when it comes to success. What they're mad about, and they can't say because they don't want to look like jerks, is Rutgers doesn't deserve this money like we do.
Be careful. Somebody got onto us in the comments the other day for.
I know, but that's what they want to say.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking about value to television, Rutgers being in the New York market is not nearly as valuable and has been proven out as just good teams playing each other on the networks.
Right.
When Michigan and Oregon will play, it has very little to do with the Portland and Detroit TV markets and the fact that all of us are going to watch that game.
Right.
It's Michigan and Oregon. Why would we not watch that game?
The United States.
Yeah. They.
Yeah. I mean, it's really like saying Minnesota doesn't have the same.
Yeah. Like that's
name a team. Pick a team out of a hat. Don't get mad at me.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. Because the other, they're just mad they're not included and they feel that they should be. To varying degrees of whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. I'm not a businessman. I'm not a scholar. I just know that that's really what it's about, because when you see the Big Ten signing a TV deal that gives upwards of $90 million to Indiana, and you're like, why are we in this league?
Yeah, when have we been on
they're
equal
middle
footing
of the
with
pack
Indiana?
football teams? And look, if I'm a middle of the pack team in the ACC, I probably feel the same way. Because the middle of the pack teams in the ACC are just like the middle of the pack teams in any conference.
Yeah.
I just think this is what's coming to a head. That's the next wave and you'll see them operate in silence, or it'll just be about the big rivals, right? Mm-hmm. It'll just be about the big rivals, but it won't be at all about, we think we're better than you. Which is what it is about and what it's always about.
I wish that these athletic directors would come out and be like, be so serious now.
Hey, Greg Sankey flat out does it.
Yep.
That's what he does all the time. He went on national television before all of the thing and was like, look, one of these things is not like the other. And you're like, yeah, but one of these things is undefeated, man. Yeah.
I'm not talking about the conference commissioners. I'm talking about the athletic directors. I want them to come out and be like, look, hey, we're not built the same. Me and Minnesota, Florida State, Clemson and whoever.
Yeah.
Purdue.
So, Clemson's thing. So Florida State was just, we're going to be loud. And, remember how good we've been kind of a thing, knowing that they were going to be good, and then knowing that, and then the fuel came when they were wronged, right? So that was their fuel. That was that they had to tell their base. Clemson had to wait. And Clemson had to wait for that TV deal to come out and be like, wait a minute. If you're talking about value to the whole thing, we've been in this playoff almost as much as anybody has.
Yeah.
And we're getting less? No. So that's our selling point. I'm curious to see what the other selling points are down the line for the other constituencies of these universities.
Yeah.
Whether it's just we don't want to be the Pac-12, it's probably the last one, or like, okay, see where we're at.
The doomsday scenario is that you become the Pac-12. That scared so many conferences into
the good news for
trying to figure it out.
It's a good news, bad news situation for the ACC. Now they've watched a conference fall apart because of total incompetence. So if you're a president thinking like, oh, well, they just did one thing wrong. No, they did 100 things wrong.
In succession.
They did 100 things wrong. They barely did anything right. So watch what they did and do the opposite. Like, don't do that thing.
Yeah.
So whatever it has to be like. So if Florida State and Clemson leave and ESPN makes you an offer and it's $10 million less per school or $15 million less, don't go, well, we feel like, no, you're not. Yes, you say yes. Take a shorter term deal, prove it, and move on. Don't lose it. Like, get those schools together. Do what the Big 12 did. Like, the ACC right now needs to be, if I'm Jim Phillips, I'm on the phone with Brett Yormark every time something comes up. And I'm going, all right, what do we do here?
Yeah, how do we navigate this?
What do we do?
Garrett, is there any schools that were possibly
or
missing?
Bob Bowlesby, for that matter, because that's what he did.
Yeah. Are there any schools that were possibly missing that could be on the fringes of this in the ACC that, aren't within those big names?
No. I would think when I look at this, my first mind always went to North Carolina, but then you kind of get hung up on, can North Carolina move without NC State getting involved? And I think they're kind of joined at the hip there, and we have to see how that unfolds. I think that the team that, from the outside looking in, that can make the most noise if they wanted to jump in would be like Virginia, just simply because they have everything there that that is attractive by the Big Ten.
Yeah,
like they check all the boxes. I think they can make some noise. Now, I don't know if that turns political with Virginia Tech, and we see the same kind of situation that's unfolded in North Carolina or not.
Right.
I just don't feel like and Paul, you probably speak on this better because you're the ACC guy, but they don't seem like it's that kind of joint connection there with those two programs. They seem like they have different. I'm going to say values or anything, but they just seem like they're too different apart.
Doesn't Virginia have like a sneaky high endowment?
Oh, they're huge.
Aren't they loaded?
Yeah, they're loaded. So I know I do like NC State and North Carolina are different.
Yeah,
but they're still. I thought this at first that NC State and North Carolina were tying themselves together so that they could keep the ACC together. They're tying themselves together so they can do whatever is best for the two of them.
Package deal.
Yeah. So, like, whatever they're going to be, like, they might be a package. Like, I don't know if they're going to be a package deal in the same conference. That I doubt. But they will be able to extricate themselves at the same time and go to the conferences that want them if it falls apart. That's what I think.
Like the USC, UCLA approach, or Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, they're not like – and USC and UCLA came together. I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that would be the case for UNC and NC State, but they would leave at the same time with each with a prospect,
a handshake deal,
with a prospect of that. Like they're going to go through this together, so they make sure that they're out together at the same time. And so if NC State say would go to the Big 12 and UNC would go to the Big 10, then like they're both in situations where they're secure and they help each other.
Why would they help each other out like that?
Just because there's strength in numbers, right? Yeah. Like, so knowing they're not necessarily going to go together, but one wouldn't want to they don't want to make, like, here's the thing. To me, it would be UNC saying, listen, we're going to help you out here so that you don't slow down what we want to do.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's the thing. Here's the agreement. We're going to help you out. We're with you. We're together. We don't have to necessarily go everywhere together.
You don't throw a wrench in this.
But we're not going to leave you in a Wazoo, Oregon State situation.
Yeah. I just find that interesting, rival institutions being, it would be very interesting to me for Baylor and TCU to be like, handshake deal, we're going down with the ship, you know what I mean? We're jumping ship together. There's room on the door for us, you know? Mm-hmm. I find that interesting because there's so much animosity between these rival programs, whether we think it's all made up for TV or not. But I find that very I don't know, cool at the very end of the day. I wonder if Duke. I mean, what does Duke do? Because they're Duke, North Carolina, thrown in. Do they throw their hat in the ring in that at all, or is it?
I mean, they're a small private school, so I don't think they have much room to stand on with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to get into a little NFL news and the Kansas City Chiefs and Rashee Rice.
Are we?
They've got an interesting scenario coming up, and Rashee Rice is very lucky that no one got severely injured in what he was a part of. We didn't even know if he was driving or not. We have no idea what's going on here. I believe a suspension of some sort is coming, and a substantial one. And Grayson earlier disagreed with me, but I think because this is now becoming more and more of a problem, like he's going to be very much a sacrificial lamb to, here, you can't do this anymore, kind of a thing. So when we come back, Rashee Rice and the Chiefs, and what do they do at 32 now? Receiver was, I think, a second-round pick for them. Now is it a first-round pick, knowing that, and it probably won't be solved by the draft either. That's the other thing. We've only got 3-4 weeks until that happens.
Yeah.
So unless that, is definitely solved and you know how many games he's going to be suspended for in the next month, you probably maybe have to move it up the line because you don't really know what's going to happen. We'll talk about that next. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back to the Triple Option. I'm Paul Catalina, alongside Royden Ogletree, KWTX, producer extraordinaire and talented individual.
Oh, thank you very much.
I taught him a lot of things. I taught him a lot of things. I talk to your boss quite often, and I always sing your praises.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
never talks about you at all.
no, I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't.
I'm kidding. We have conversations about that all the time.
There's no reason to talk about me.
Right.
I don't work for you guys.
I don't think about you at all.
That's the best burn ever.
Mad Men.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think about you at all.
Yes. But Rashee Rice and his
Great
situation.
transition.
Rashee Rice, who I've been thinking about quite a bit the last couple days.
Yeah.
Because this is all right, let's go through the situations the NFL's had. They couldn't do anything about Jalen Carter at Georgia, but Georgia continues to have a problem, so it's very much in the news.
Yeah, ETN just got
exactly.
arrested, right?
Yeah. So Andy Reid's son.
Yep.
Henry Ruggs.
Henry Ruggs. Years ago, Leonard Little.
That doesn't ring a bell at all.
Leonard Little played defensive end for the Rams, and he was suspended for a good long while, but he came back and played. But
Derek Thomas got killed.
Yeah, exactly, in a car accident. So these are things. This is not. And there are more and more street racing incidents going on nationwide now because why can't you be a Ghostbuster or a Batman? Like, why do you if you're gonna do something stupid from a movie, just do something stupid.
Don't do Fast and Furious.
Don't do Fast and Furious. Yeah. I understand you can enjoy those movies and not have to think for 2 hours, but because I've been there, I get it. But they're less real. They're honestly less realistic than Batman.
Yeah.
Someone could really be Batman.
Let me tell you, Vince Vaughn. Anyway, that guy isn't
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel isn't actually indestructible in real life.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that.
You cannot drive a car really fast off of a cliff and then park it in an airplane.
Yeah, or drive from a skyscraper to another skyscraper.
No, that
Won't happen.
So
the rug situation.
Yeah,
for the uninitiated, he was somehow involved. He and another car. There was a Lamborghini in his name that was speeding in the Metroplex. Went out of control, causing a 6-vehicle crash. 2 people were treated for injuries at the scene. I believe 2. I may be butchering this, but I believe 2 people were transported to the hospital with minor injuries. We ran the story yesterday in the news, but luckily no one was killed, because the height of this is the Henry Ruggs situation, which that video is tragic and horrible.
Yeah.
And now he's gone. He's never going to play in the NFL again.
Yeah.
Mostly because he's in prison.
Yeah, for a very long time.
But he walked away from the scene. There's video of Ruggs like getting out of the car, walking away from the scene. The Lamborghini's registered in his name. He finally just yesterday started cooperating with the Dallas police. Now, they haven't come out and said it if he was driving. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. I don't know what Roger Goodell is going to do and be in the situation of, like you said, make him an example. I feel like it's not going to end great for this guy, because there's a non-zero chance that he was driving the car, first of all. But second of all, it's registered in your name. You just can't be involved in that situation. And the fact that we've had multiple of these incidents now, these guys think they're invincible. These 22-year-olds think they're invincible. The kid won a Super Bowl. He's going to get paid eventually. Or he got paid on a rookie contract, but I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, just to say that, yes, he's probably going to be made an example of by the NFL, just because of if the Ruggs situation didn't stop you from doing this in general, now we're going to any of these situations, whether you killed somebody or not, where you're going to have to pay the piper.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Like he is going to get suspended. So whether his suspension is 4 games, 6 games, 2, he's going to get suspended.
Yeah.
Do you alter your draft plan if you're the Chiefs at 32?
The thought was that they were going to draft a receiver anyway. I mean, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy was sort of on that board. I mean, a lot of people want them to take Ladd McConkey. I don't know where he falls in that mix. The thought was that you needed to do that anyway. They traded a cornerback, a starting cornerback recently, I think for money reasons, because they had to pay their defensive tackle, Jones. Chris Jones? Yeah, they had to pay Jones, and he finally got that. He finally got that contract that he obviously deserved, but that means they had to trade one of their starting cornerbacks. I think for salary cap reasons, obviously. There's thought that probably you need some secondary help still, but also, man, you still need somebody to catch the ball too. That's not named Travis Kelce, who's getting older by the day, But that being said, does that mean that you draft the 165-pound guy that has historically had problems catching the ball?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It would change it. Look, they signed Hollywood Brown to a 1-year deal, and that's a prove-it deal for him. And now I think he's going to look great, with Patrick Mahomes, because most people do. But it does.
They don't need another one of those guys.
Yeah. So
Rashee Rice was the perfect complement.
But do you draft a Keon Coleman, a Troy Franklin, a Xavier Legette, like a bigger wide receiver to pair, do those things?
The guy that I've been talking about this entire, the second LSU receiver.
Brian Thomas.
Thomas, thank you. I've said his name 1,000 times and I forgot it every time on this show. Brian Thomas serves the same purpose as A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, except that he's 220 pounds and 6'3".
Yeah.
Now there might be some stuff with how advanced his route tree is, other than go. But I think why not try to trade up and get that guy? Now people may not want to trade out of those mid-round draft picks, but something like 23 may be gone because the Vikings own it and they've already traded it away. And that's kind of where they have Thomas going in these mock drafts. I would like to see it. He kind of serves those same purposes if you wanted to get one of those guys, these high flyers. But why not go with the guy that kind of resembles DK Metcalf to me? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would too. I would do that. So, yeah, I think you gotta do something. I would do it anyway.
You need a possession. You need a guy that can catch the ball.
Yeah, they need.
You know what I mean?
The reason they weren't like as scary last year wasn't because they weren't scoring 70-yard touchdowns.
Yeah.
Without Tyreek Hill, because they still won the Super Bowl without him. The reason they were like less annoying and vulnerable during the year was like 3rd and 9. Like there wasn't any dependable receiver other than Kelsey.
Valdez-Scantling, sick.
Yeah, all those things. Like you need. Because you've got like Hollywood Brown is going to be better. Like he'll be fine.
He'll have like 1,000 yards.
He'll be fine.
10 touchdowns,
like,
something crazy.
Like I wouldn't sneeze at Ladd McConkey for them at all because you're going to go and get first down. So that's what I want. I want a chain mover. That's who I want. Now, if that happens to be Keon Coleman or Xavier Legette or Troy Franklin or whoever of some of those later receivers that are going to be available possibly at 32 and beyond, and that we don't even know, right? Yeah. Because we don't know how people assess those things. I would not be against like doing that. The other one, I think they could maybe get at 64, unless he starts creeping up. We talked to him last week, Javon Baker from UCF.
Oh yeah.
He's a very good player. He's very good. Catches everything.
Is he from Florida State previously?
No, he was at Bama, and then he went to UCF,
Okay.
and he played for Gus. So he was on the Gus bus.
You know, it's weird to say this about a Super Bowl winning team, but they do have a lot of holes that are just kind of negated by Patrick Mahomes being your quarterback. But the problem was last year is that if you scored 21 points, you had a really good shot at beating the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So what that means long term, I don't know. And the Rashee Rice thing, the GM has just got to be like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This was the one thing that hit last year. Now, it took a while to come on for Rashee Rice, but it was the one thing that you were counting on. He was going to grow with Patrick Mahomes and kind of be the next guy.
Yeah.
This throws a complete
No, I think I don't think he's going to be suspended.
He's not going to spend it
forever.
for life, no.
But yeah, I mean, look, Deshaun Watson did a different thing.
Yeah.
And it was very nebulous too. Like we know that he did something. We're not completely sure what he did. We just know it was wrong. I mean, we know what he did, but like the details are nebulous, right? And so he got suspended for a very long time. The details of this are not nebulous at all.
It's on camera.
The only thing that we don't know is who was driving the car.
I bet they figure that out in short order.
I bet you they do. And so
you're going to get that ESPN push notification in about a day and a half, maybe.
Yeah. So like those things are going to happen. Well, Royden, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're
today.
welcome so much.
I love you bunches.
Thank you.
Isn't that a weird thing to say? I don't know.
No.
I'm going to say one awkward thing to a co-host every day to see how they react.
I love your eyes.
I might have been listening to Conan O'Brien's podcast too much because that's kind of the stuff that he pulls, just to see how people
Your
react.
smile really lights up a room.
Yeah.
But not in like an endearing way. Just be like,
no, like
I love the way that you look.
Literally, it lights up a room like it's fluorescent. Yeah. No.
Just a hint of creepiness.
Did you swallow a light bulb earlier?
You smell great.
There's something about your forehead. No, no, that's even creepier.
I'm gonna tell you what just to embarrass my wife on here. I'm gonna tell you like what my wife told me the first time that I told her I loved her in our relationship. She goes, "Oh, thank you."
Was she like, oh, badass?
Yeah, sick, bro. High five.
Bet. That's awesome. Bet.
She said, "Oh, thank you," and then said, "I love you too." In short order, like I said, but it was the immediate reaction was, "Huh."
Was she like, no cap? All right.
Yeah. Dead ass, bro.
No, I love you AF.
XOXO.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Today on the program, John McClain will shed some light on the Rashee Rice thing, I'm sure, and how the NFL will proceed. Also, look, it's basketball season. We're talking a lot of basketball. We got Brendan Marks from The Athletic. We got Mike Rodak, Alabama 24/7, and Jason Shear, Wildcat Authority, on what? Bobby Robbins, the president at Arizona, is no longer the president at Arizona. And what is not all that shocking news to me, given a debt crisis, and when you ask the guy, how do you get in the debt crisis, he's like, yeah, I don't know.
It was accounting error.
It was weird, right? We haven't figured out
money to come over
how
for
much.
savings.
Like we've heard it's $300 million. He's like, well, it could be less, or it could be that. We're still crunching the numbers.
I would have the best response was $300 million. What?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to talk about that this afternoon. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications